If you're a law firm and money is your value, put it down.
How did you learn to be such a thoughtful leader?
I mean, I don't know. I think,
Do you agree
um,
that you are? Because the way
yeah,
that
no, I am thoughtful. Like people who have worked with me and work for me will tell you that I'm thoughtful. Because I think it is that I believe firmly that success begins with being intentional, right? You need to be intentional in all you do, and you need to be intentional down to the last detail. Like those, like if you the most successful people I know in anything are the most intentional people. The least successful people I know are not intentional and they just basically react, okay? And so if you're intentional and you're like, okay, I want to build a thriving organization. I want to build an organization that is top in the state at what it does. I want to build an organization that is a great employer. I want to build an organization that is a leader. Okay, fine. Let me work backwards. Like what do I have to do? Well, okay, I've got to hire the right people. Okay. And then I've got to train the right people. Well, what does that training look like? And fortunately, like there are people out there who are smart at all of these things who you can read their books, listen to their podcasts, learn from, and then implement those things. And so I think it really begins with being intentional and being curious. And and if you can have those two things, like being thoughtful just flows from that. If you have any sort of like bias towards action.
you also mentioned values, and I think you framed it in the context of value-driven leadership or something to that effect. What's been your process for actually developing your values for yourself just as a person and also for your firm, and then communicating that to the people that work with you and driving your businesses forward, whichever firm we're talking about, in a way that aligns with that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the values work begins with self awareness. Okay, like you can't. It's not something that you can give lip service to. So, for me, like it was really finding out through therapy, through uh, like cognitive testing, like what makes me tick, like what do I actually find to be important in the world, right? And I think it begins there because I think if you're leading an organization, organizations are shadows of their founders. They're shadows of their leaders. Teams are shadows of their leaders, right? So it starts really looking inward, right? And then it starts with the courage to articulate what that is, what that looks like, why it matters, and then get buy-in from your team. And if you're starting a team like we started at Best Era, like we sat down at the very beginning of what we wanted to do and we said what is really important to us, like what do we want to be, what won't we compromise on, and we wrote those things down, and I think it's like it's not much more than that. But when I do consulting work, the one of the very first things any organization I get into, it is like, where do you want to go and what are your values? And a lot of times, like even successful organizations have trouble articulating it, or they just give corporate gobbledygook word salad. And I'm like, no, we're not going to give the word salad. We're going to be really honest about what you value. And I think when you are honest about what you value, you can create alignment. And so I tell firms and I tell my students, like, be honest about it, because like on the list of my values, like money is not a high value, but to some people it is. And no judgment, no shame. We're not ranking values. It's not some competition. But if you're a law firm and money is your value, put it down. Our goal is to make as much money as possible. And if you come here, we want to pay you as much as possible, but we want you to make as much as possible, right? You're going to attract people who value that, and like that's fine. But a lot of companies want to be like, hey, we want to be a great place to work, but really their value is making a lot of money. And so people are like They buy into what they're saying, and then they get into the reality, and they're like, this is not authentic, like this is not true, and they leave the organization.